Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. I love Mad Max. I love all the Mad Max movies. Yes, even Beyond Thunderdome. That's actually my favorite because it was my introduction to Mad Max.
Me too. That's the one that first introduced me to it. So I think I'm always gonna have a soft spot for it.
I'm aware that it's the weakest. I will acknowledge that, but I still enjoy it. It's still got merit. It's pretty good. I fucking love Tina Turner in it.
Yeah.
Loved Fury Road. Thought it was incredible. It was like one of the few times where an old director returned to something and didn't ruin it. I was like, oh wow, he actually made it but he made it actually better in a little bit. That was a great job. I had heard, like, even when Fury Road was coming out, that they wanted to do a prequel about Furiosa, and I went, no thanks. I like Furiosa. I thought she was a fine character, but I think we learned everything we needed to learn about her in that film. And that's the thing. I saw a lot of asshole guys. They're like, why would you watch a Mad Max movie without Max? Why are they focusing on a lady? And I'm like, well, other than the first movie, they're not really like Max. They're not really about Max. Max always wanders into a situation, and then it's always like Road Warrior. There is a colony that has a bunch of fuel. They want to get to a destination, but there's a gang that's stopping them. And he walks in. He wants just a few tanks of gasoline to get away. He ends up getting wrapped up in their crusade because he is a former police officer. So his old morality comes out. He's like, I do need to help these people. Same thing with Beyond Thunderdome. He thinks he's an asshole. He's like, all right, fine, I'll kill this dude for Tina Turner. I don't care. And then he finds out it's like a deformed dude and he feels bad. And then he goes meets the kids, and the kids are all full of hope. And he's like, don't have any hope. Everything sucks. And then toward the end, he's like, all right, getting on the plane with that guy. Maybe you'll find something. I don't know. And same with Fury Road. He's just like, I feel like I've let a lot of people down. I just want to be alone. And then he's like, I guess I got to help these people out. Maybe I'll get it right this time. So yeah, I don't think people get Mad Max sometimes. So I feel like,
well, and it is a series where sometimes you forget the main characters even in the movie half the time. And I think Furiosa is also kind of plays into that too.
Yes. So she kind of fills that role in this. So just briefly, Furiosa, we get to see the backstory of her in the green place being taken. Although they changed it because I think they said like her and her mom were taken, but now it's like she was just taken and her mom pursued her. She like followed her around, and then they get killed by Chris Hemsworth's gang. And by the way, if you are a guy who skipped this movie because you didn't want to see a female protagonist, you're missing quite possibly the best Chris Hemsworth role ever. You're missing probably one of my favorite Mad Max characters ever. I thought every time he was on screen, I'm like, this is incredible. This is hilarious. This is one of my favorite things ever. He takes her in. He ends up giving her to Morton Joe and his boys. Fun fact, that guy on the left there, he's not in Fury Road. It's the actor from Fury Road. He plays a different character in this because in the Mad Max movies, they reuse actors all the time. But he's actually the main villain in the video game that they put out. So I guess this is his origin
that's
story.
Cool. Huh.
Yeah. And so Furiosa gets traded to a Morton Joe. Dementus takes over Gastown. And then again, the rest of the movie is this power struggle between a Morton Joe and Dementus, and then Furiosa teaming up with this guy who's not Mad Max. I was calling him Pleasant Pete because he's like his actually name is Jack. She learns skills from him, and she decides to take advantage of this war to go on a revenge mission. That's the plot summed up there. There we go. A little similarity here.
I was with you. I was like, all right, so this is Mad Max. Oh, it's not. Okay, but it is.
Oh, don't worry. I'll talk about Mad Max in a second. But okay, we'll go down the list here. Doug, how did you feel about Furiosa, a Mad Max saga?
I liked it. The only downside I would say to it, one, I think the nose on Hemsworth, I think, is very distracting to me. I saw it on IMAX and super, whatever, HD and stuff like that. And you can see sometimes where, like, the little makeup line in between the skin is that. And his performance is good enough. You didn't need it. That was, like, the one thing that was kind of distracting me. But for me, I love coming back to this world. And even if it is a story that you can kind of predict what's going to happen, which is fine. I love this world. I love these characters. I love how harsh it is. I love how aggressive it is. To me, it felt like they were combining a little bit of the exploitation film angle from the first film and like the Fury Road style together, which I was okay with because Fury Road is awesome, obviously, but it's one long chase. I wouldn't mind seeing something that kind of goes through like the life of somebody or kind of takes a little bit more time and stuff like that. So I like seeing that, but that's about it for anything different, which again, I don't mind because I love this world and I love what I could just literally be like walking around this world, have no main characters. I would be fine. And the movie almost does that because again, Furiosa, like you kind of forget she's even in the movie the same way Max does because they are just the observers. I think the only other thing that I think was intentional, I'm not sure, is that the CG isn't as good as in Fury Road, but I feel like that might be intentional because it has a little bit more of an exploitation film feel to it. Like more like modern ones that come out with sort of the fake effects, and especially when they do the zoom ins a lot that are clearly done digitally afterwards. Like I feel like it's supposed to look a little fake, but the stunts are still amazing. The world is still very cool. I like that it is still, like, even watching it again, I'm like, oh yeah, this world is just so tough and so mean and so rough and so over the top that I'm just like, I just love it so much. I just get into it a great deal. So I had a great time with it. I wish there was a little something new with it because that is something I like when there's many years in between the Mad Max movies. There's usually something really new added to it that gives it like a new kind of flavor. And this is the same flavor, but it's a delicious flavor.
Joey C. Where did you land on Mad Max? Furiosa, Mad Max.
Furiosa Saga.
I thought it was a very manly movie, of course. The action rocked, man. Especially like the food transport scene. That was really awesome. And these movies are like great, easy action movies to watch because like the plot is so simple. For the most part, you drive to one point, you drive back, and that's it. So even if you're a super casual fan, these movies I think would hit for a lot of people. I also saw it in IMAX, and the sound design was fucking earth-shattering. Loved it. I did think it might have been like a little long, but I wasn't nearly as bored as I could have been. The other thing that I was a little disappointed on was the lack of practical effects, but it's just like the landscape we're in nowadays. So everything's going to be CGI. So I got to get used to it. But fucking awesome movie, man.
There is, not to skip to what I thought, there is a shit ton of visual effects in Fury Road. I feel like a lot of people are like, yeah, there was no CGI in Fury Road. I'm like,
no, like all the backgrounds.
Most of the movie is CGI. Like, there's a lot of CGI.
When that guitar went like this and then back, they really did that. It looks so real.
It was just so well done. You're right. This one is not quite on that level. It stands out a lot. So if you watch them like back to back, you're like, oh, that was a hard shift. But Gil, how did you feel about Furiosa?
Furiosa Road.
I don't know. First, you guys are like telling me there's no Santa Claus. I was like, Fury Road, that was all practical. It was all in the camera. But I mean, I second everything you guys have said. The movie looked incredible. The action was amazing. But I can't help but compare it to Fury Road. And not like as I'm watching it, I'm trying to compare it, but I didn't feel quite as engaged by it as I did Fury Road. And I did find myself getting somewhat exhausted by the end, and then I thought it picked back up. But I think, Doug, it's what you said, where Furiosa she almost disappears for a while in the middle of the movie because it becomes about the power struggle between Immortan Joe and the other guy, which makes sense because she's essentially biding her time, I think, waiting for the opportunity to get revenge. But I think that does something. Where Fury Road was so focused, at any moment you could point to exactly what the characters are trying to do. Like they're trying to get home. They get there is no home. Now they're trying to go back. And there's also a lot of character arcs in that movie. Like I heard a lot of people complain there wasn't much story. It was just action. But it's subtle. But you have Max deciding to stay and help. You have Nux getting betrayed by Joe and deciding to join the other side. Furiosa deciding to trust Max. Finding her home is gone. There was a lot of emotion in that movie. And in this movie, as opposed to that, I often found myself just sort of waiting for the next big stunt action scene, which was awesome. And I loved it. But it was lacking a little bit for me in the character emotion side of things that I think helped me stay more engaged in Fury Road.
I can feel that. They try to get you a little bit with the romance, and then they try to get you just with the revenge over the mother. So yeah, like I said, I love pretty much all the Mad Max movies. At the beginning of this one, I thought the movie was mediocre.
Nice.
I forgot I had this until today. No, yeah, it took me a minute to like really get into the film. I thought the whole backstory with her as the little girl just dragged for me. I'm like, okay, no, I get it. That's how she got there. Okay, let's speed this up a little bit. It takes forever for Anya Taylor-Joy to show up in this film. It's mostly like the little girl Furiosa for like the first half of the film. But yeah, once she was there, once she was learning how to do all the Imperador stuff with Jack, I started to get more into it. But what kept me watching was Chris Hemsworth. I thought that character was so funny. I think I'm gonna maybe like this. I don't know. I want to rewatch it a couple more times to see if I'll end up liking it more or liking it less. Right now, I'm kind of on the fence. Either way, it's a solid film. But yeah, the visual effects kind of took me out of it. I do think she had like a bit of a character arc, but like it's a weird thing where it's like, yeah, but then her character arc is finished in a different movie. And I guess if you didn't see that movie, they play a highlight reel during the credits.
Yeah.
Which was cool, I thought.
Also, there was one moment that really made me mad. They're getting ready to do the war between Gastown and the Citadel, and they show like Chris Hemsworth's gang like going down this secret path, spreading oil, and the narrator who's like telling the whole story.
The history man.
Yeah, the history man. He's like this, and that started the war, and then we don't see that initial battle. It's just a highlight. It's just a montage. I'm like, wait, I thought we were building up to a really cool battle, and then we just see the end of several battles. I'm like, oh, I thought that would be way cooler. Okay. But it was nice to see Gastown and the Bullet Farm. They were only mentioned before. In the video game, you go to them. They kind of look similar to the video game. So that was all good. Like I said, I'm going to see how I feel about it down the line. But, I mean, this movie answered two very important questions, okay? There's only two things that stopped Fury Road from getting a 10 out of 10 for me. And it was because I didn't know the origin story of this guy. And now I do. When I found out that he worked for Chris Hemsworth and then Morton Joe bargained to use his services, and that's how he got hired, I went, finally, the mystery is solved. All throughout Fury Road, I'm like, I'm on board with everything, but how'd that guy get his job? I've been losing sleep over it since 2015. And then when in Fury Road, when Furiosa sees Max, I'm like, is this the first time they met? Or did Max once eat beans on the side of a hill and look at her far away? And this movie proved, there's no picture of it yet because it's still in theaters. This proves that, yes, Max indeed did sit on a hill eating beans and looked at Furiosa really far away. I love prequels when they give us the backstory to shit that we don't need the backstory to.
Yeah, I'm not calling you Chewbacca. That's too many syllables. I'm calling you Chewie.
And then... yeah, and then it kind of changes the context of Fury Road now. So now when she looks at him in Fury Road when they first meet, I'm like, oh, I bet she's going, he looks like that guy I used to date. Like, that's going to be in the back of my head now when I watch Fury Road.
Well,
I mean, it's called a Mad Max Saga. He should be somewhere in there.
I guess. He should have been the one telling the story, maybe. I don't know what you do with that. I mean, I would have loved if someone was like, hey, did you hear Master Blaster left Bartertown? That would have been enough cameo for me, just hearing about events of different Mad Max movies, depending on when this takes place. They could have been like, yeah, you know that Leather Daddy in the Jason mask? He died the other day. Isn't that crazy?
I love the idea that this future still knows who Jason is. Jason Voorhees. The one other thing I think I didn't bring up before, I like the replacement actor who plays Morton Joe is not, but he's not doing an impression of the last guy, and I like that. He's giving it his own space. He looks just like the other guy. I mean, anyone can kind of look like that dude in that makeup, but I really liked it. He wasn't trying to do this, like, I mean, this guy sounds like Scar or Jim Cummings or something like that. I mean, he has a voice like this, and I like that. I like it was a different performance.
I did like that they brought back, where is he? The people leader? Hold on. Let me find the picture of the boys there. Yeah, this guy on the right. And I like when when Chris Hemsworth gets his nipples ripped up, he like pinches his nipples because it like it hurts him to watch.
Well, he literally has like some sort of weird cod piece on the whole time. I think just everything probably gets him off in one way or another.
So I love how incompetent Dementus is in this. Like, he's technically a leader, but he's not a good one, and he's bad at like bargaining. Like, if he didn't have Furiosa there, and I love when he's pretending to be her dad. He's like, oh yeah, it's my little one. Lost her mother, tragic tale. But I love that he's bargaining. He's like, I need this. He's like, I need plenty of protein. My boys need the protein. And I love that the people eater's like, no, we're not giving that to you. And he's like, you better. He's like, no, but like we statistically can't. He's like, crunch the numbers. We don't have enough resources to give you what you want. And I do love when he accidentally kills the gas town guy, which was his whole bargaining thing. He shoots a spike through his head. I could have watched a whole movie of the wacky shenanigans of Dementus. Like when he first shows up like a badass and they just chase him and his guys away.
And I'm with you. I didn't know I hate using the word range because that sounds bad because I've only really seen him as Thor. But I didn't know he had that range. I didn't know he could be that silly, and I really like him as Thor. But I didn't know, he can do this kind of voice the whole time and blah blah blah. And it's not something where I'm like, oh, that's just an actor doing a voice. Like I really bought him as the character.
Yeah. His wife plays 2 roles in the movie. Did you guys know which ones those were?
No.
Nope.
The blonde lady with the gun at the beginning.
Yeah, she's
and
the blonde
one with
lady
the messed up face.
Yeah, and then she's the mutated girl, like the mutilated girl that like is part of his gang. So he gave his wife 2 roles in the film. I don't know. I had a good time watching it. I thought it was a little too long. It was longer than I think it needed to be. But you're right. I like revisiting this world, but what I like about Mad Max is seeing new places each time. And I get it's a Furiosa prequel, so they have to be here. But I'd like them to go forward. I want to see Max on another adventure.
I think it was really not a great idea to do this prequel though, because
I agree.
I think there's no chance they're going to make another one now because it's bombing at the box office. Yeah, and like
I think it's going to find its audience though. Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to find it on the big screen, but I think it'll find its audience.
Well,
I hope so.
Fury Road wasn't like. It became a decent, like right away. I don't think it was like a huge smash hit.
No, it was never number 1. That's the irony. This is one of the only Mad Max films to be number 1 at the box office. It just happens to be during one of the lowest box offices of all time.
But don't you think like I was thinking about it, and to me, Fury Road was almost like a phenomenon. Like that trailer was crazy. I was like, I need to see this movie when they're driving into that big storm. Like, what a lovely day! Like it had those moments, and it became this like cultural phenomenon where everyone's like, you need to see that movie. But if not for that, Mad Max to me is a weird world, and I feel like mainstream wouldn't typically go for a movie like this that's so strange. So I feel like on top of that, now you're making it a prequel, which adds another stigma to it. I don't know. I'm worried that we're not going to get more Mad Max movies because of this, but I hope you're right, Doug, that it finds an audience.
I can see another one happening, but they would cut the budget down. And I think honestly, I think the reason it's not doing that great, I think you're right. I think it is because it's a prequel. People know what happens to the character. I think the look of the world is Fury Road again with nothing that new added, and I think everyone's just gonna be like, well, why don't I just see Fury Road again? I think they really had to give us something really new, which I love this movie. I love coming back to this world. I had a great time. I didn't think it was too long because I love this world so much, but I totally acknowledge, like for the common moviegoer, it's like, well, okay, what's new that I'm going to see here? And there really isn't anything new. Even the story is, again, you can kind of guess what's going to happen in it. But for me, like I said, I love that world so much. I'll watch it like a million times, but I think for the common moviegoer, you have to justify going out to see this now when you have so much content everywhere.
And I'm thinking of characters that I'd rather see a prequel for. Lord Humongous would be fun. I don't know if you know this, but in like original drafts of the script, Lord Humongous was going to be revealed to be Max's partner who got lit on fire in the previous film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they ended up changing it probably because they're like, wow, when did he hit the gym recovering from all those burns? But I would also, I'm sorry, Tina Turner's character. Oh, like how did an American lady just happen to be in Australia during the apocalypse and take over this town? I'm like, we never learned about that. I'm like, I want to know more about that. I'd rather see that. will never see that, but I would like to see that backstory.
Yeah, I don't
Hollywood,
think
I'll
they
do
should,
it. I'll
like,
do the
this movie-
anti-entity backstory.
There you go.
I say this movie's struggling at the box office. They give Tony the reins, and he's like, "We're doing a Tina Turner prequel from Thunderdome."
It's what
But will Max be eating beans from far away?
Yes, Max will be eating beans from far away, and I'm gonna be like, and we're gonna get Tina Turner in the movie. They're like, we keep telling you, Tony, she's dead. I'm like, oh damn it.
You could put a prosthetic nose on Chris Hemsworth.
You can make a prosthetic Tina Turner.
Well, apparently, by the way, there were some digital effects on the little girl to make her look more like Anya Taylor-Joy.
Oh yeah, I heard
'Cause
about
I
that.
kept
yeah.
watching the whole movie. I'm like, they look so similar, and she
Oh.
looks more and more similar as she ages.
Speaking of computer stuff, I saw that the president of Sony said that he was going to use AI to help production in their films. And after watching Taro, I'm like, this feels like an AI-generated film. This feels like they plugged it into a thing.
I mean, after Disney had their first AI movie with Wish, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, yeah, check. I feel bad saying don't rush to the theater to see it. I'm like, if you're into this world and you like these movies, definitely check it out. Try to see it in IMAX. If you'd only seen Fury Road and you thought it was good, but that's it, you can wait till streaming or when it hits disc. Like, I'm not going to judge you. I'm not one of those guys. There's a lot of guys on like Twitter right now. They're like, how dare you not see this movie in the theater? It's like, man, shit's expensive, okay?
Yeah.
Shit's expensive, all right? I mean, I'll see Mad Max 5, but I'm not making it a priority. I got other shit to do. But yeah, let's go through some of these super chats before we do our last two things here.